Welcome to the Crystar Q&A featuring some of the amazing talent behind the voices of the game. So let's just go around and introduce yourselves and the character you play.
Hi, I'm Laura Post, and I voice Anamnesis in Crystar.
Hi, I'm Michelle Marie, and I voice Mirai Hatada in Crystar.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Lee Morris, and I am the voice of Mephis in Crystar.
Hi, I'm Brianna Knickerbocker, and I voice Ray and Kuon in Crystar.
Hi, I'm Xanthe Huynh, and I voice Yuri Minano in Crystar.
So, Crystar, this is quite a different project, and also probably one that not many people remember. It came out in 2018, and it's been some time since it came out. Yeah. So, it's kind of an open question to start things off. Kind of looking back at your past work, maybe even sort of refreshing your memory on your past work, and then seeing it be relevant, 4 years later? How does that feel to you, all of you? Just know that something you did so long ago is still being appreciated among fans, even now.
I feel like it's exciting for it to be accessible to a different group of people because it's porting to a new system. And, when you get hooked onto the gameplay, then you don't have to be confined to your home since it is a mobile system.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's just a testament to the story and the characters and the design and just how cool the game is. I think that's why it's being ported into Switch and why it's had such an interest from people for all these years. And it's just cool to be part of a project like that. So I'm always incredibly thankful and so just touched that people are, into a project that I was in. And it's just really cool to be part of something very memorable like Crystar.
Yeah, I think as actors, we put our hearts and our souls into these characters, and, we use our imaginations and put ourselves in these worlds, and we get so attached and we fall in love with it. So all we want is for other people to love it too. So the fact that people are still interested in it and it's going to go cross-platform and more people are going to play it, that just makes my heart really happy.
I know that all of you you're very busy people, of course. You have a lot of current projects and a lot of newer projects. Were you surprised to hear about this one in particular? After working on so many things and working on stuff currently? Yeah, it's a over 4-year-old game. Do you feel your character in Crystar and how you played it kind of affected your roles down the line? Is it completely different? Is it the same?
What's interesting is that Mirai was actually one of the first video game roles that I ever recorded for. I think I got the audition for Trails of Cold Steel around the same time. So I was kind of simultaneously recording for Millium and Mirai at the same time. And they have slightly different motivations. But I guess that Mirai kind of started this whole, I call them the stabby smalls, because then after that, I kind of kept getting cast as small characters that stabbed people.
Yeah, incling SAO.
Yeah. And I was like, oh no, what does this say about me? So it was kind of but it was exciting because, as actors, I think that we, can always play characters that are really similar to ourselves. And I think it's a real testament when we can play characters that aren't like ourselves. Or we have to really kind of latch onto something and be gee, I don't know if I really agree with this character, but it's my job. So, I think that, Mirai was kind of like that for me because she's, I don't want to give a spoiler or anything, but she's not exactly as she seems, not exactly the sweet little sister that she comes off as. So it was really fun to kind of dive into the other side of her.
Nice.
Sort of tangenting off of playing characters that aren't like you at all. Yeah, before playing Anamnesis, I had already played a number of villains. So it wasn't exactly and then I played Anamnesis. But what I will say is that when you're in a game, you might play it when it comes out because you want to see how it turned out. But it took me a while because I have a huge backlog of games. But when I started playing it, I was like, wow, she's really mean. Like I felt like I felt like I did a great job of really making you want to kill Anamnesis in like the first 10 minutes of the game. You're like, oh no, she cannot live. It's great.
Well, they say the nicest people play the best villains, and the meanest people play the best nice people.
Oh, there
I've
you
never
go.
heard that before.
Oh,
There
wow.
we go,
Yeah.
Michelle.
You guys are really nice.
Brianna, you played 2 characters in this game, actually. So how was that for you, switching back and forth?
Yeah, so usually in games or anime or whatever the project is, if you play multiple characters, you kind of compartmentalize them. So, you'll do this character first and then this character. But it's really fun. For me, it's just more, I get to play more in this imaginary world. I get to, just, what's the word I'm looking for? Like dive really deep into this story. So for me, it was like, the more the merrier. Keep giving me more cards. I'm just kidding. Choose cards.
Yes.
That's funny. So my character, so in video games, I've played a lot of like sassy, bold fighter people. But for this game, my delivery was like pretty monotone, like pretty like goth. I like to call it my Wednesday Addams voice. So it was fun to do that because it was completely different from other stuff I had been doing.
Have you done that same voice in later roles, like that Wednesday Addams kind of monotone voice?
In only one is coming to mind right now, and I did it maybe even like 3 years after we recorded Crystar. It was for this web series called Talk a Life. And she's even more like she's even like kind of more grumbly. She doesn't have like as much of a personality as Mephis does. Also not as evil as Mephis.
Right.
So, we're not ruling over purgatory in like a kid's web series. But yeah, Mephis was fun because of that, because it was such a departure, and anytime I can kind of get out of my typecast or my comfort zone, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, Crystar was awesome for that.
Nice. How about you, Xanthe? Did you feel that your character Yuri was kind of in your wheelhouse, or was it a step outside of what you're normally used to?
She's very different from what I normally do. I usually play a lot of characters that are very meek, very shy, or depressed, I guess, in a way. But Yuri, she is sort of aloof and rough, very intense, and really antagonistic, almost like right from when you meet her. And that was very surprising to me because you don't kind of ease into this. She's like right in your face. And for me, I was like, oh, okay, we're jumping right into it. So when you see other scenes like from the past when they were friends, like we were trying to find the right balance of like, okay, you got to keep her aloof, but this is when they were these were happier times compared to like what has happened afterwards, and how she ended up in this state, and why she's very out for vengeance and such. So yeah, she was very different, and I thought it was kind of fun to dive into something so different and find her motivations as to why she is the way she is. But so that was really fun.
Nice. Yeah, sounds like a good sort of stretch of your abilities. Kind of looking back at the process, obviously you're all very familiar with each other now. Kind of back in 2018, were you all still friends then? Did you meet for the first time? Like, how familiar were you with each other while recording Crystar?
I feel like I definitely knew Xanthe, definitely knew Laura. I had not really hung out a lot with Cassandra yet, and I definitely had not. I think Michelle and I didn't even know. Yes, I definitely remember in the sessions, like somebody saying like, oh yeah, Michelle's playing your little sister. I was like, oh, who is that? So I had no idea about Michelle yet.
Michelle was our breakout star.
Well, the cat. But I actually moved to LA in 2018. So like I said, this was like one of the first video games that I actually got to work on. And I remember when they told me that Brianna was my sister, I was like, oh, yay, I get to work with Brianna, because, you know, I had heard of you before, and I heard that you're really sweet, and then I was just like really excited to work on it. You're not. You're so shy. She disappeared. I did know Xanthe a little bit through mutual friends, so that was cool. But I don't think until that game I hadn't met Laura or Cassandra. I've heard of your names before, but I hadn't met you, so it was kind of cool to be in a game with people that I was like, oh, I know that name. So.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, VO World is pretty small, but you know, if you've never met the people, you've probably heard their name.
Yeah.
Unless they're new and fabulous like Michelle, and then you're like, I'm gonna know them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely knew and had hung out with Brianna and Xanthe, and I had met Cassandra a number of times, and that sounded like we've met each other a number of times. You know what I mean? That,
Michelle, like at a con or an event or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run into each other in the studio, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I knew all of you, or had met all of you at some point before we had worked on the game, but I think when I was working on the game, I didn't know who was in the cast, and usually that's what it is. Like, you don't know until the game comes out and everybody announces, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I can see like how those interactions could have gone.
It is fun in the session, though, when they do tell you, like, oh, and 'cause sometimes I'll be like, who's playing this? And they'll tell me, I'm like, oh, that is so fun. They're doing like such excellent work, or I cannot wait to hear what they do with this character, you know?
Yeah.
Did anything about the process stand out to you as far as how they were directing you, or, you know, kind of going day in, day out to these sessions?
So one thing that was different for me was Felice's lines were already recorded. So I was actually able to play off of them, which is pretty rare in a video game, because for, you know, I would say 99% of the video games I've done, I just record my own lines by myself and I don't get to hear anybody else. But for this one, I did get to hear the other actor that I was with. So that was cool. And I think that helped like build the relationship and build out the character and stuff like that. So yeah, that was cool.
For my scenes in particular, I do remember the director reading like the other characters' lines so that I had something to work off of. Sometimes they'll just give a summary of what's happening in the scene, and then you just read your lines. You don't get to see the other person's lines, but the director read them for me so that I could be meaner.
I love the way you said be meaner. Like, is it okay if I say mean?
I think I was an earlier character that recorded, because I don't feel like I had a lot of other actual recordings to bounce off of. But again, the director would read with me, which was super nice. That's always like really nice to have. And in general, I just felt like the tone of the game was very grounded, like considering that it's kind of a fantasy game and stuff. I felt like the performances across the board were like really grounded, and it was just really, it was like a nice depart, especially when you're playing a kind of like out of their villain, to like bring it down to this cruel place, which, as Michelle, it's like, that's like it's hard because I'm not a cruel person. So it's like, how do I be as mean as possible?
Right.
Yeah. It was a really fun experience.
So definitely have to sort of dig deep for that inspiration and to get into that headspace. Speaking of digging deep and getting inspired, Brianna, how did you manage to do all that crying in your sessions?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, that's why I was kind of getting chills when Laura was talking, because it's like you can't fake it. I mean, you just like when you're acting and you're in the booth and you're in this imaginary, and you're trying to transport yourself into this imaginary world, and you're imagining yourself as this character first person, like you kind of like have to go to this place, and it can be uncomfortable, it can be difficult, and emotions are not exactly static. They're kind of like up and down. So maybe for one take you have it, or I have it, and I'm like crying and I'm in it, it's like, okay, we have to do it again, and I'm like, oh, but I lost it. Have to figure out a way to get back there somehow. It was very, very, very intense. I remember losing my voice multiple times. I remember it was just, I had to go there to the most dark, twisted, emotionally devastating places every session, and it was a lot. I remember just being exhausted all the time.
Wow.
It was a lot. But I love doing that, and that's like such a rewarding adventure, and as an actor, that's literally what I dream of doing. So that it was an incredible experience.
Wow. It definitely came across, for sure.
Mhm.
Kind of opening it up to everyone else as well. When you look for inspiration, when you dig deep, where do you kind of pull from to get those specific emotions or that specific headspace?
I always like to say, I have a lot of stuff in my toolbox. So, I definitely draw on my real life. But, I mean, the fun part about being in a video game is that you're in another world that, doesn't necessarily exist on Earth. So sometimes I'll just take like a fraction of like something that happened to me in real life, like the essence of an emotion, and then I get to just use my imagination for the rest of it. And I just, kind of like build out a world in my head, like based on what the game is, and like kind of melding it with my own experience. And yeah, so that's how I do it, and that's like the most fun for me, just being super creative and creating everything in my head. Yeah.
Similar to what Cassandra said, a lot of it has to do with me just kind of really putting myself in the character's shoes, and then really understanding what's happening in the world around them. So I tend to ask a lot of questions to the director or whoever is there from production as to like, what's going on, why is this happening to her, and like, why does she feel this way? And then if I'm still not able to really fully connect with that, then I'll draw from something. I'm like, okay, that character kind of reminds me of like my brother. Okay, I would feel kind of this way if this happened to him, or this and that. So you kind of make those connections to really bring the emotion to whatever's happening in that moment.
Kind of similar to what everyone else has said, but it's also like taking the character's backstory and kind of using your imagination to see what their motivation is in this scene. So when we record video games, we don't know the whole story. In fact, it's like we get scene by scene, and sometimes they're out of order depending on like what's happening. So you're like, oh, I don't know exactly what's happening. But it's kind of like you have to have the motivation at the very end of the game be present at the very beginning, which is hard when you don't know what's happening. So like with my character specifically, in the beginning she's like, oh, I miss my sister, and so there's like this, like, oh, I don't want to be separated, and so it's kind of like, I don't want to give a spoiler, but it's kind of sneaky, and so I had fun trying to figure out the motivations for, because when you want something, or when your character wants something, you want other people to believe you. So it's kind of like this, sneaky, like, oh, I'm not doing anything wrong kind of thing. So kind of like try to think about characters' motivations of what they want, and kind of drawing on my own experience. And I kind of think like every role that I get cast, it's kind of like I'm dimension hopping. Like if I was in this dimension, I would be this character, and in this world I'd be this character. So that's kind of like why I love voice acting, is I get to go on adventures in a tiny little booth, which is kind of like a time machine, or not a time machine, but like a wrong science, but like a dimension hopper machine.
There you go.
An anime black hole.
Yeah.
Or a video game black hole. You're just like, oh,
Use a kite every day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Did all of you get a chance to play or watch the game get played, like after everything was said and done? And if you did get a chance to do that, like, what did you think? Were you surprised by the final results? Were you shocked to hear how you sounded through your character?
Well, like I said, I was surprised by how mean I sounded, which really I feel like takes something because, again, not my first, rodeo playing a villain. But yeah, and I thought I was very impressed by the sheer amount of crying. And like, there's a moment early in the game where there's like a huge breakdown, and I was like, wow, this game is serious. Like, it was that moment where I was like, this game is very serious and real and not like weird tropey anime fun times. Which is also fun to do, but I was like, oh, because I thought that maybe that's what it was, and then I was like, no.
I was also going to say that I've seen some gameplay footage, and like I really love the gothic Lolita aesthetic. It's kind of melodramatic and very beautiful. All the characters are just like dolls, and I love like their expressions. Like Ray is kind of has like that kind of sweet sadness to her, whereas the other characters all have this kind of like smirky kind of expression.
They do.
And there is the fluffiest dog, and you get to watch Ray like pet the dog, and I'm like, yes. So yeah. And in regards of to Yuri, I was really surprised listening to it, just because she does come off really strong right when you meet her, and I think it makes sense. You're in purgatory, so everybody has some sort of regret or resentment if they're there. But yeah,
Seconded to liking the gothic aesthetic. I've watched some gameplay, and I just love how it looks. It's so cool, and it's very different from other stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love the colors, like the art style. It's just really cool to look at. So,
Well, since Crystar was like the first game that I was a part of, I bought it. Because I don't know, like when I was a kid, I used to make little home videos and put them on DVDs, and then put a piece of paper on the top that had my name on it, like I was cool. But you can't play it in the thing if it has paper on it. So it was kind of cool to actually have a game where I'm like, I'm in this. Like it was so surreal, and I made a big deal about it, and it was like really exciting. But in the booklet, because if you pre-ordered it, you get this little booklet. But my name was in the booklet, and I was like, ah!
Nice.
So it was like, I don't know, it's like really weird. I don't know if like I kind of feel like when you, depending on the role and the project, I think that excitement of I'm in this doesn't really go away. But I mean, that was one of the first times that I was ever like, this is what I wanted to do, and I'm in it, and it was just really exciting. And so I played a little bit of the game. And when I heard my voice, it was just, I don't know, it's really weird because I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but when you're in the booth, you're kind of in the zone and in the character's head. Mm. And so then when you get out, you're like, I don't remember recording that line, but I guess I did because that's my voice. So it was just really, there's like that weird surrealism kind of like, that's me, but it's not me kind of thing. And that always happens. So, but it was really cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that blackout feeling. That's what I like to call it. That's how I know I did a good job.
Oh, I love that. That's why I love watching or seeing the project afterwards. I learned recently that some actors don't enjoy that. And I'm like, what? I love that because I get to see all the puzzle pieces together and the whole story come to life and the whole world. And that's the end goal for me.
Nice. That sounds incredible. So Michelle, I'm sorry. I'm going to quickly call you out on something. And if you don't want to dive into it, totally cool. But in my research for Crystar and, preparing questions, I did see you cosplayed from the game.
Oh, I did. Yes, I did. So because it was the first thing, and I went full out like I'm excited and I'm invested in this. So yeah, I'm not really a good sewer. Like I wouldn't like be like, hey, buy clothes from me because they probably fall apart. But they work for me. So I made like a skirt and I made a pendant, which if you make things that hang on your neck, you should make very thin pieces, not heavy pieces. I learned that now. 'Cause I had to like safety pin it to my sweater because it kept falling over.
Oh, goodness.
I was like, oh no. But I went to AX one year because the creator, the director and the artist were there, and I was like, I have to meet them. I have to like thank them for letting me be a part of this game, even though they may not have had direct influence on that. But I was able to meet them and introduce myself, and the artist was like really excited that I had, you know, cosplayed as Mirai, and Jackie was there too, so it was really fun to meet Jackie. But yeah, I did. and I, you know, I know that people kind of get like worried about their hair turning gray, but the wig didn't look that bad on me. So, you know, I don't know if I'm that worried of getting gray hair in the future.
Nice.
Yeah,
If
most
someone
of the
made it,
costumes are
sure.
a little intricate for my
Mhm.
sewing skills. I definitely couldn't
Yeah.
make Anamnesis's gorgeous dress and veil and whatnot.
Mhm.
This
Calling
is the
out the-
closest I'm gonna get to Yuri. I try to find like some emerald green, and like she has like a long ponytail. I was like, okay, I think that's a subtle nod there.
Yeah.
God, I would love to cosplay as Ray. Like that is such a gorgeous, like what a joke. It's like this like figure skater intricate costume with armor and this crazy gorgeous sword. But oh my, and yeah, how? Literally how?
Foam. Lots and lots
Yeah.
of foam.
Lots of willpower.
Yes. Foam.
Lots of praying and hoping that it all comes
Praying
together.
and
Rain, soaping, and foam. Those are the
Mhm.
three ingredients.
One of the abilities you get in the game is to actually summon a guardian known as Heraclitus, who helps you out in battle. Big armored, you know, big beastie character. So I'm just curious, if you guys had the ability to summon your own personal big bulky guardian, what would you have them do? Like first day?
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't even know. Carry me places.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
Clean my garage.
Is he small enough to fit into a car? Can he drive me places?
I think he can actually be your car, maybe.
Fantastic.
Oh, okay.
That works too.
Like, he'll just carry you around. He has big strides, you know. He can probably move as fast as a car.
Now, does he carry you like a baby, or do you sit on his shoulder? That's the real question.
That
Or I
is-
guess
Like
on
a
his
baby.
back,
I
like a
was
baby.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
Because what if I'm wearing a skirt? Like it's just I can't do like a piggyback thing, you know?
Yeah.
I got this all thought out. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna work. No.
I guess I'm more boring. I'm like, can you reach all the high things for me?
That's good too. Yeah.
Mhm.
If the guardian could assist with like basic cooking, just like preparing some meals,
Oh my gosh,
I
yes.
would be so down with that.
Yes.
I mean, you know, they talk about the power of tears, and it's like, you know, if your tears can't spawn a guardian who can cook for you, like you know what's the point? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, is the guardian activated by tears, like when you
Yeah,
cry?
it's something like that. I feel like.
Yeah,
right?
you can like in a level you can like stop and cry and like pull your meter up to get it.
Oh.
So
Because I feel like that'd be
Yeah.
really inconvenient. Like maybe you're having a bad day at work and you like go into like some place and you're like, ugh, and then the guardian shows up and then
But maybe it's good because like you're like having this bad day. Maybe somebody was really mean to you, and then this guy's gonna come out and be like, "Hey, don't be mean to her."
that'd be impressive.
Your emotional support combat armor.
Yeah.
You're crying in the bathroom at
Come
work,
back,
and he
armor.
comes out and he goes to your boss and goes, "This is micromanagement. You're a terrible boss." And you're like, "Oh, that felt so vindicating, and I didn't do it, so maybe I won't get fired."
surprise,
guardian.
this is HR.
The
Oh,
guardian
you
is
know what would
speaking your
be
mind for you.
great? Like if somebody cuts you off in traffic or like cuts in front of you at the grocery store, like just stick the guardian on them. Be like, no, like, no, you gotta stay there.
I love it. Yes.
Terrifying.
Yes.
on the
Guardian of
freeway.
justice.
Yeah.
Instant karma.
Yes.
I think the condition is you'd have to be able to control-
Karmaclitis. Sorry. Okay.
Karmaclitis.
Sorry, my awkward dad humor.
No, we like dad humor here. It's great. We're coming towards the end of our Q&A, so to wrap things up, thank you all for your time. This was incredibly fun. Really awesome to see kind of the hearts and the talent behind all of it. Is there anything you want to share with the fans at this time about yourselves or Crystar or just anything in general?
Play Crystar.
Hope you enjoy the
That
game.
comes from my heart.
Right
Play
along with
Crystar.
us.
Yeah, enjoy the game. Dive into it. It's a really cool world. I hope you guys love it. There was a lot of heart and soul and emotion poured into it from everybody here. So yeah, I hope you'll all love it.
Yes, please enjoy it and immerse yourself and just, yeah. And you got like an emotional support Heraclitus to help you through like
Well, that's
coming
what
back
the
to life
puppy's
afterward.
for.
And you can pet the
Puppy's
dog,
there
so
for
you
that.
know
Yeah,
it's
you
a good
can
game.
pet the dog, so
That's
10
important.
out of 10.
Awesome. Okay, that'll wrap it up. Thank you all so much.